Welcome to Child Psychology, a series about the science of how young minds actually work, not parenting opinions, not trends, but the research. We begin at the beginning, how a child's mind develops from birth, and why psychologists say the earliest years carry disproportionate weight for everything that follows. Here is the first thing to understand. A baby is not born with a finished brain. A newborn arrives with roughly all the brain cells it will ever have, but very few of the connections between them. Those connections, synapses, form at an extraordinary rate in the first 3 years of life, at a pace of more than 1 million new neural connections per second at peak. The brain is not simply growing bigger. It is being wired, and the wiring is shaped directly by experience. Neuroscientists call this experience-dependent development, and it means something specific. The environment a child is in during those early years is not just influencing their mood, it is physically shaping the architecture of their brain. Chapter 1: Piaget and the Stages of Thinking. In the 20th century, the Swiss psychologist Jean Piaget proposed that children do not just know less than adults, they think in fundamentally different ways at different ages, moving through distinct stages. The first, from birth to about age 2, he called the sensorimotor stage. In this stage, infants understand the world purely through their senses and actions, looking, touching, mouthing objects. One of the great discoveries of this stage is object permanence, the understanding that something still exists even when you cannot see it. A 6-month-old who watches you hide a toy under a blanket will act as though the toy has vanished. By around 10 months, most infants understand it is still there. That single milestone reflects a fundamental leap in how the brain represents reality. From about 2 to 7, children enter what Piaget called the pre-operational stage. Language explodes. Imagination takes over. This is the age of pretend play, imaginary friends, and treating a stick as a sword without any confusion about the difference. But thinking is still what Piaget called egocentric, not selfish, but literally unable to fully take another person's perspective. A 3-year-old covering their own eyes and believing you cannot see them is not being silly. It is a genuine, age-appropriate limitation in how their mind models other minds. From 7 to 11, children move into concrete operational thinking, logical reasoning about physical, real-world things. They grasp conservation, that a tall skinny glass and a short wide glass can hold the same amount of water, even though a 4-year-old would swear the tall one has more. And only from around age 11 onward, in what Piaget called the formal operational stage, does abstract reasoning fully emerge, hypothetical thinking, weighing multiple possibilities, moral reasoning about fairness and justice in the abstract, not just the concrete. Modern research has refined Piaget considerably. Children hit some of these milestones earlier than he thought, and development is messier and more continuous than his clean stages suggest. But the core insight holds up remarkably well: a young child's mind is not a smaller adult mind. It is a different kind of mind, built for a different kind of learning. Chapter 2: The Bond That Shapes Everything. If Piaget explains how children think, the British psychiatrist John Bowlby and the developmental psychologist Mary Ainsworth explain something arguably more consequential: how children bond, and why that bond becomes the template for every relationship that follows. Bowlby's attachment theory proposed that infants are biologically wired to seek closeness to a caregiver, because for nearly all of human history, proximity to an adult was the difference between survival and death. But attachment is not just about survival. Ainsworth's research, using an experiment called the Strange Situation, showed that the quality of that early bond predicts long-term emotional patterns. In the Strange Situation, a toddler is briefly separated from and then reunited with their caregiver in an unfamiliar room. What matters is not whether the child gets upset when the parent leaves, almost all do. What matters is what happens at reunion. Securely attached children, roughly 60 to 65% in most studied populations, seek comfort from the caregiver on return and are soothed by it, then go back to exploring. This pattern reflects a consistent history of a caregiver who reliably responded to their needs. Insecure patterns look different. Anxious resistant children are difficult to soothe even once the caregiver returns, clingy and distressed, often the result of inconsistent caregiving, sometimes responsive, sometimes not. Avoidant children show little visible distress at all, appearing independent, but physiological measures like heart rate and cortisol tell a different story: distress that has been suppressed, often because past bids for comfort were rebuffed or ignored. A fourth pattern, disorganized attachment, shows contradictory behavior approaching and freezing, seeking comfort and fearing the source of it simultaneously, most associated with caregiving environments involving fear, unpredictability, or trauma. Why does this matter beyond toddlerhood? Because attachment researchers have followed these children for decades, and the patterns are strikingly durable. Adults classified with secure attachment as infants tend to report more stable adult relationships, better emotional regulation, and greater resilience under stress. This is not destiny. Attachment style can shift with new relationships and conscious work, but the early pattern casts a long shadow. Bowlby summarized it simply: a child who has a secure base to return to becomes an adult who can explore the world with confidence. Chapter 3: The Brain Behind the Behavior. Underneath both Piaget's stages and Ainsworth's attachment patterns is a simple neurological fact that explains so much of what looks like difficult child behavior. A young child's prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for impulse control, planning, and emotional regulation, is the last region of the brain to fully mature, not finishing its development until the mid-20s. Meanwhile, the amygdala, the brain's threat detection and emotional alarm system, is fully online almost from birth. This mismatch means a toddler experiencing a big emotion is not choosing to be irrational. Their emotional alarm system is fully operational while the regulatory system that would normally calm it down is, quite literally, still under construction. Understanding this single fact reframes an enormous amount of what looks like defiance, meltdowns, and irrationality in young children, which is exactly where this series goes next. What all of this means, taken together, is that a child's early years are not a waiting room before real life starts. They are the foundation on which cognition, emotional regulation, and relational trust are actively built, brick by brick, largely through the quality of the relationships and experiences a child has access to. Understanding this is not about parenting perfectly. No caregiver responds correctly every single time, and research on attachment suggests that is not even the standard that matters. What matters is what researchers call the good enough caregiver: consistent, responsive, present enough of the time that the child's nervous system learns the world is fundamentally safe. In part 2 of this series, we take this brain science and apply it directly to one of the most common parenting frustrations there is: why kids misbehave. Tantrums, defiance, testing every limit you set, none of it is what it looks like on the surface, and the psychology behind it will change how you see it. Subscribe, and we will see you there.